Hi everyone, this is Sabrina. Welcome to the S Factor Studio. I'm here to share what I created for Maymay's March Motivation ATC Challenge. I will link that video in the description box so you can see and hear all about this ATC challenge. I think it finishes April 30th. I believe you have to have your entry in by April 30th. So these are my ATCs that I made, and I'm going to I always say this, I'm gonna attempt to go through most of the process just to try to show what I did, how I made these, and I really like the way they came out. So I'm gonna try not to chit chat too much. I'm gonna move these aside and just go through the process, or most of the process. So I started with a look. My son drew on it. You know why? Because he thinks my craft room is his craft room. So I started with a 2.5 by 3.5 piece of chipboard. I've already covered one side with paper. This is a Michael's very beachy, I think that's the name of it, but it's a Michael's Hot Buy. So, and again, I tend to forget to chit chat, because when I'm crafting, I try to concentrate on what I'm doing, because I'm trying to get everything to look the way I want it to look. Alright, so there's that. Let's put it on there. And I have to clean up as I go along, otherwise it looks like a hurricane hit. Okay. I'm going to get my bone folder and just make sure. I have to remember to make sure I'm in frame as well. Okay. And I usually wait, not a long time, but I like to make sure it has a little bit of time to dry, and then I butt my scissor. For me, it's usually like a feel, but I can butt my scissor up against the piece of chipboard and make sure that I'm cutting straight along without actually cutting into the chipboard, and that usually helps me come out with a very a straight cut, and looks like a nice, it's a, what do you call it, looks like a clean, a sharp line, rather than, I don't like for my thing to look mismatched, or like the paper, that you can see the paper hanging off separate from the chipboard. I try to get everything as smooth and uniform as possible. And I always go ahead and use my nail file to, not only does it kind of distress the sides, but when you do, and I'm doing it in a downward motion, like against the chipboard. Again, I just like for everything to look, as clean and smooth as possible. Like, I don't like to be able, for me, I don't like to be able to look and see all the layers. So I just do that. And then I love my Nouveau mousse, and because this mousse, it's not just, sometimes I use ink or marker, but I like using the mousse because, it's adding like a layer. It's adding a layer so that, it'll cover up any inconsistency. So if it's, again, and this is just, this is me and my personal preference and my little quirks. So because I like for it to look smooth and like one smooth piece, the mousse adds a little bit, adds another little layer to kind of cover up. And I look for every excuse to use this stuff anyway. Okay, so then, which side am I going to use? Then I took a sheet of paper, and I made sure, you know, it's long enough to go across. I took the sheet of paper and I ripped towards me. And I try to get as straight a rip as possible. And I'm going to write on this paper, you'll see why in a little bit. I'm going to write top, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here, and I'm ripping. What am I doing? Oh, I guess this way. Yeah. Because the idea is to have, you know, that rigid end. And I'm going to write bottom. So I have like top and bottom, and I'll come back to this in a minute. So then I'm going to tape those two to the top, and the idea is to make it look like I have a faux rip without actually pasting it down. I wanted as much of my card to be as flat as possible, which is hard for me because I love dimension. I'm actually going to move this down a little bit and then tape it. Okay. And I might have done it, made my space very small in here. I tried to do, let me see. Yeah. Let me put it right, oops. Let me put it right there. Okay. So now I'm going to stamp my butterflies. And I'm actually going to, let me make sure I have everything. I'm going to heat emboss them. I was trying to have texture and have as much interest without creating too much dimension. I'm so messy. Okay, so I'm gonna go, am I in frame? I'm gonna go right here. And I'm overlapping over those two strips of paper, and you'll see why in a second. Okay. Like I said, I put everything away as I go along, and I'll edit as much as possible. So I'm going to lift this out of the way, lift this out of the way, and get my embossing powder. And I'm gonna just heat emboss that, so excuse the noise for a moment. I like to try to let my heat gun warm up just for a couple seconds. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back and line it up where it was. Top and the bottom. And I'm going to do a little bit more stamping using these, so that was the Bow Bunny Butterfly Kiss stamps. And I'm going to use these Prima Finnabair Elements. Don't forget to fly. I'm just going to use the little circles. And I'm going to use this Memento because I'm going to put some glue over it and I don't want it to smear. And this Memento is a dye ink. So I'm just randomly stamping some of these circles. And then this one, this teeny tiny one. Okay, so now I'm going to take this off, and that other piece of paper where I put top and bottom, you can you'll be able to see like where it covers up. Like if I move it here, you could still see the top of the butterfly. Like you'll be able to, I'm able to align it where I can tell that the cut was. And I'm going to use these distress inks. I'm going to use Broken China and Salty Ocean. And actually, I'm going to start with the bottom. So the bottom part, I'm going to put right where it covers the circles and it covers the butterfly. And I'm just going to ink it up. These are not the I forgot what the expensive ones are called, the life-changing brushes or whatever it is. I'm not too sure of the name. This is not what this is. I found a pack of these in Walmart. I think they came 3 or 4 to a pack for about $4, and I picked them up, you know, just to try it. And I like using these. I use these blenders all the time. I have tons of these, and I love using those blenders, but especially with the regular distress ink, not the oxide ink, I have a difficult time blending because I'm heavy-handed, and I end up leaving blotches on the paper and things like that. So for this, it seems to help me control a little bit better the way that I blend the inks. And it just, for me, it's a smoother process. All right, so now I'm gonna move this to right there, and do the same thing on the top. I'm gonna use a little bit less of the Broken China and some more of the Salty Ocean because I wanted the top a little bit lighter than the bottom. And of course, I just have the beach on my mind. Always. I always have the beach on my mind. So I was thinking kind of sky and ocean. See, I was a little bit heavy-handed there, but it blends. These brushes help me to blend a lot easier. And so when I pull it away, there it looks like you have, you know, a scene underneath, like, I don't know how to explain it. The way you would if you ripped the paper and you adhered the paper between two different patterns. So that was the look I was going for. And it looks like, you know, you have a faux rip. Okay, so next where's my little brush? To make my little sparkly background, I lightly went over with the Mod Podge, and I kind of, you know, I went along that the little rip line. These tutorials or process videos are stressful for me because I've crafted for a very long time, but I am not an in front of the camera type of person. Am I even in frame? And so to convey, you know, what I normally do off camera while I'm on camera is a little bit difficult. And I watch the playbacks and I'm like moaning and groaning, but I'm trying to practice more and more to get more efficient, not necessarily at the crafting part, but at the video part, if that makes sense. Okay, so I use this Recollections extra fine glitter and just sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. And I made a boo-boo. I didn't color my butterflies. I was supposed to color them before I glittered. But that's okay. I'm going to leave it as is. Okay. Okay, so hopefully I'll be able to go through and edit any downtime. I guess in the meantime I can show you my girl. So she is this wooden stamp by Penny Black. I don't know the name of it. I can't remember where I got it. I probably got it from Hobby Lobby, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I think she's super cute, and she has little butterflies all on her dress, and she has a butterfly in her hair. And let me just say, I love my scan and cut. So I cut her out on the scan and cut, and yes, to me it is everything that everybody says it is. So I cut her out, and I had a lot of fun coloring her. Look at her eyes. I don't know if you can see if the camera's picking up. I put some little blush on her cheeks. I think she's super adorable. So then I punched out a bunch of these little vellum butterflies, and where you see that she has butterflies all in her dress and on her hair, I just put some of these vellum butterflies to add texture. Trying to decide if I'm going to keep going. All right, so also I forgot, I used my Spectrum Noir alcohol marker, and I just went over in yellow because I wanted to add like a little, I felt like I needed some yellow, like sunshine. And so I just went over the edges. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue her on. Let's just keep going. So I'm using my glitter glue. What is it called? Art glitter glue. And I know that glitter is there, and sometimes I have an issue with gluing down on top of the glitter, but it's not completely dry yet, so she should adhere pretty nicely. I had already cut these. I had put one against the card, and then I cut, oh, I lost the butterfly, because her dress is longer. So I did cut these ahead of time. And I was kind of okay with like certain edges of her sticking up, because I didn't, like I said, I was trying to watch my dimension. I was trying to decide earlier on if I wanted to put her on foam tape, but I kind of wanted her to be separate from the background, but I didn't want her to be popped up so much. So even though some of the edges may not be quite flat, I'm okay with that, because to me it kind of still gave her a little bit of dimension. Like she's still the focal point of the scene. So then I made these vellum flowers completely inspired by my sis Tanya, and I added the metal stamen, and then I used the Nouveau glitter drops. I went over the edges with embellishment mousse, and these here, some of them have it and some of them don't. I went over the edges with this distressed glitter dust, but then I went over that with the embellishment mousse, just to kind of tone down the color. And I'm gonna go ahead and adhere this flower, and I like to use E6000 as well as a little bit of hot glue, just to assure that it doesn't pop off. And then these are, I had some of the Tim Holtz metal heart charms, and I filled that with, again, Nouveau crystal drops. I sprinkled some glitter on it, and then I went over it with UV resin just to make it, you know, a little bit harder. And I'm going to adhere that with E6000, and I'll let that sit. Then I used this glitter glue that I have a feeling, I always say this and then I get it wrong. I think Carolyn, who is Tea Time and Dolls, gifted me this. If it wasn't Carolyn, it was definitely Sonia. And I just use this on the centers of the butterflies, the ones that were stamped, as well as the ones that I glued onto her, just like down the center, like the body. Okay. I did take my yellow marker again, and I went over the edges on the bottom just to make sure like the edge of her dress kind of blends in. Then I used these that I got from Tuesday Morning, Me and My Big Ideas, the soft-spoken embellishment sentiments. And I put a tiny dab of, where is it? I used the E6000 on this too. I just really hate it when like when stuff pops off when I mail something, or you know, if it's sitting for a little while. And that one says love. And there you have it. So I did print these off. Maymay has a PDF available so that you can write your name and put, write your information on your ATC in the back. And I did 6 of them, but I think I'm only going to send 3 of them. And I have yet to title my work. So if you stayed with me and you're still watching, if you have any suggestions, I'm probably going to ask my son when he comes home, my 14-year-old. But if you have any suggestions as to a title for her, let me know in the comments. I did go over these with the embellishment mousse so that when I glued it in the back, it kind of, it looked cohesive and it kind of blended in. I'm not going to glue this one just yet because I don't want anything to fall off. This still has that E6000 trying to dry. And then each of them say, have a different sentiment at the top. So that's my project. This was actually my first time creating an ATC, and I had a lot of fun doing this. I had tons of fun coloring her, and I kind of liked the fact that I had an idea and I was able to execute it pretty well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a fabulous day. God bless, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.